He was found in a locked conference room inside a historic hotel, through a hole in the ceiling. The fall was catastrophic, but the distance did not make sense. There were no witnesses and no clear explanation, at least not at first. Then investigators discovered a strange letter, folded and shrunk to tiny font, taped behind his computer. It read like a coded message, almost like a manifesto. It mentioned films, secret societies, famous names, and congratulated him as if he had completed something. 6 days earlier, Rey Rivera had run out of his house after receiving a phone call. He never returned. In May of 2006, 32-year-old Rey Rivera was living in Baltimore, Maryland, a city that had not originally been part of his long-term vision. Rey had grown up in California and had always imagined building a life connected to storytelling and film. He was a writer at heart, but also athletic, charismatic, and deeply ambitious. Friends described him as energetic and imaginative, someone who thought in scenes and narratives, someone who believed that life itself could unfold like a carefully structured story. He had studied creative writing and was heavily influenced by cinema, particularly directors who built tension slowly and left audiences with lingering questions. Rey and his wife Allison had recently moved from Los Angeles to Baltimore so he could work with his longtime friend, Porter Stansberry, who ran a financial publishing company. The job was far removed from Hollywood, but it offered stability. Rey helped produce video content and write material for the company. It was meant to be a practical step, perhaps temporary, while he continued to think about larger creative ambitions. On May 16, 2006, Allison left town for a business trip. Later, she would say that nothing about that day felt unusual before she left. That evening, while she was away, Rey received a phone call from his workplace through the company switchboard. We do not know exactly what was said during that call. What is known comes from the timeline reconstructed afterward. Shortly after receiving the call, Rey left the house abruptly. His wallet remained inside. The lights were left on. There was no detailed explanation of where he was going or when he would return. The departure appeared sudden and incomplete, as though he expected to be gone only briefly. He never came back. In the hours after Rey left the house, nothing immediately signaled that something irreversible had occurred. Because Allison was out of town, there was no instant alarm. It was only when Rey failed to respond to calls and did not return home that concern began to grow. As the next day passed without contact, friends and family began trying to reconstruct his movements. Eventually, Rey's car was located parked near the Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore. The vehicle was not hidden, damaged, or abandoned in an isolated area. It was simply there, positioned within walking distance of the historic building. That discovery narrowed the search radius and quietly shifted attention toward the hotel and its surrounding blocks. Still, there was no immediate indication of what had happened inside or around the structure. For several days, uncertainty lingered. The timeline contained fixed points: the phone call, the abrupt departure, the parked car, but the critical hours in between remained unaccounted for. It was within that unexplained window of time that the case began to transform from a missing person search into something far more troubling. For 6 days, Rey was missing. Friends organized searches, family members made calls, and uncertainty began to harden into fear. Then at the historic Belvedere Hotel in Baltimore, something unusual was noticed. The Belvedere was a grand multi-story building with layered rooftops and architectural levels that were not easily visible from the street. At some point, a hole was discovered in a lower roof section, an area that did not immediately draw attention from passers-by. Directly below that opening, inside an unused conference room, Rey Rivera's body was found. The injuries were catastrophic and consistent with a high fall. Investigators later theorized that he had fallen from the hotel's main roof, which stood significantly higher than the lower section where the hole appeared. The estimated horizontal distance between the main roof edge and the hole was approximately 40 to 45 feet. That is not a simple step off a ledge. It suggests forward motion, potentially a running start, and a trajectory that would require both speed and precision. Yet no witnesses reported seeing a man on the roof or observing anyone jump. Security cameras did not clearly document Rey entering through the main entrance of the hotel that night. although alternative entry points have been discussed. Near the opening in the roof, investigators found his mobile phone and his glasses. Reports indicated that these items did not show obvious catastrophic damage, a detail that later fueled speculation, although interpretations of their condition vary. Despite the dramatic scene and the severe injuries, the medical examiner did not officially rule the death a suicide or a homicide. Instead, the manner of death was classified as undetermined, a designation that reflects unresolved questions rather than definitive conclusions. Then came the note. It was not found at the hotel, but later inside Ray and Allison's home, taped carefully to the back of his computer. The document had been typed, reduced to an unusually small font size, folded with precision, and secured out of plain sight. It was not displayed like a farewell. It was hidden. That alone set it apart from what investigators typically expect in cases ruled as suicide. The text itself was dense and fragmented, moving rapidly between references, names, and declarations. It mentioned films centered on hidden games and orchestrated realities. It referenced secret councils and alluded to Freemasons. It listed family members, friends, and public figures. At one point, it appeared to congratulate him for becoming a member of something, though it never clearly defined what that membership meant. Certain passages felt coded. Others read like personal affirmations. What it did not contain was equally striking. There was no explicit goodbye, no apology, no clear statement of intent. The tone was not despairing. In places, it felt anticipatory, even triumphant, as though describing a transition rather than an ending. To some investigators, the note suggested paranoia or a possible delusional episode, language reflecting grandiosity or disorganized thought. To others, that conclusion felt premature. Ray was a writer. He thought in metaphors. He admired layered storytelling and cinematic symbolism. Creative language taken out of context can resemble instability when it may simply be imagination. Yet context also included behavioral changes in the weeks before his disappearance. Allison later said Ray had seemed unsettled. He installed an alarm system in their home. He reacted sharply to unexpected noises. On one occasion, after hearing a loud sound outside, he reportedly dropped to the ground as if responding to a threat. Those details complicate the interpretation. Were they signs of escalating anxiety, the early stages of a psychological break, or responses to something he genuinely believed posed a risk? One reference in the note has drawn particular scrutiny. Its apparent echo of the film The Game, a psychological thriller in which a man becomes entangled in an elaborate, reality-bending scenario orchestrated by a secretive organization. In that story, the protagonist believes he is in escalating danger, only to learn that the chaos was part of a constructed experience designed to test him. The parallel is unsettling. Ray's language about councils, stages, and recognition can sound similar to someone describing participation in a hidden structure, a system operating behind ordinary life. For those who see the note as evidence of delusion, the resemblance is significant. It suggests a narrative in which reality and fiction may have blurred. And yet the comparison does not prove instability. Referencing a film about hidden structures does not mean one believes they are living inside one. The ambiguity is what gives the note its power. Read literally, it feels unstable. Read symbolically, it feels theatrical. The document never clarifies which lens is correct. Instead, it sits at the center of the case like a Rorschach test, revealing as much about the interpreter as about the writer. Rather than explaining what happened, the note deepens the divide between competing explanations. It does not answer the question of Rey Rivera's state of mind. It intensifies it. And yet, whatever the note meant, it does not explain the phone call that sent him out into the night. The phone call remains one of the most unsettling details in the entire case. Records indicate that the call originated from the company switchboard of the financial publishing firm where Ray worked. That detail matters because it suggests the call was routed internally rather than coming from an unknown outside number. However, the specific extension, the individual who placed the call, and the exact content of the conversation have never been publicly confirmed. In the days following Ray's death, the company retained legal counsel. Employees were reportedly instructed not to speak to the media, and communication with investigators was handled through attorneys. From a corporate perspective, such caution is not unusual in the wake of a sudden and highly publicized death. At the same time, the lack of transparency left a void. The identity of the caller has never been officially disclosed to the public, and no detailed account of what was said has emerged. Whether the call was routine business, an urgent request, or something else entirely remains unknown. There is no confirmed evidence that the call was connected to foul play. Yet its timing, immediately preceding Rey's abrupt departure from the house, has made it one of the most scrutinized elements of the case. In unresolved investigations, unanswered questions tend to grow heavier over time, and in this case, the silence surrounding that phone call has fueled suspicion for years. Engineers and independent analysts later examined the physical layout of the Belvedere Hotel in an effort to understand whether the scene was consistent with a voluntary jump from the main roof. The building's architecture is layered, with multiple setbacks and lower rooftop sections that are not directly beneath the highest edge. To reach the area where the hole appeared, a fall from the main roof would have required covering a horizontal distance estimated at roughly 40 to 45 feet. Some experts have argued that such a trajectory is physically possible, particularly if the individual had sufficient forward momentum, while others have questioned whether it would require a near sprint across the rooftop, raising practical considerations about footing, surface stability, and the absence of clear signs of a running start. The angle of the opening in the lower roof has been interpreted by some as suggesting forward motion rather than a straight vertical drop, though reconstructing exact trajectories without direct observation is inherently imprecise. Additional physical details further complicated the analysis. Rey's flip-flops were reportedly found near the rooftop edge, prompting questions about whether he removed them intentionally before a jump, or whether they came off during the fall itself. The available evidence does not definitively answer that question. Investigators also recovered his mobile phone and his glasses near the opening in the lower roof. Reports indicated that these items did not exhibit the level of catastrophic damage some observers might intuitively expect from a fall of that height. Although accounts of their exact condition vary, and small objects can behave unpredictably during high-impact events. Taken individually, none of these elements conclusively contradict a fall from the main roof. Taken together, however, they have fueled ongoing debate. In the absence of eyewitnesses, definitive footage, or a fully reconstructed sequence of movement through the building, the physical evidence leaves room for interpretation, which is ultimately reflected in the official classification of the manner of death as undetermined. Years later, the story reached a wider audience, drawing renewed attention to some fresh scrutiny. Viewers, journalists, and independent researchers revisited the timeline, the rooftop measurements, the note, and the unanswered questions surrounding the phone call. Theories were debated in detail: suicide, a tragic accident, or something more deliberate and orchestrated. Each explanation accounts for certain elements of the case. Suicide offers a framework for the fall itself. An accident attempts to reconcile the physical uncertainties. The possibility of outside involvement seeks to explain the abrupt departure and lingering silence. Yet none of these interpretations resolves every inconsistency. Rey Rivera fell through a roof. That much is established by the physical evidence. But the precise path that led him there, the state of mind he was in, and the meaning of the note he left behind remain unclear. In many investigations, time brings clarity. In this one, time has only sharpened the edges of the questions. Some mysteries gradually fade as new evidence emerges. Others persist because the missing pieces never surface. The unexplained death of Rey Rivera belongs to the latter category. Officially undetermined, publicly debated, and still, after all these years, unresolved. The official cause of death was ruled blunt force trauma, consistent with a fall from height. What do you think happened to Rey Rivera? Was it suicide, accident, or something else entirely? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're drawn to unresolved cases like this one, subscribe for more investigations into the unexplained.